Howdy, y'all. You got the Bulldog on the channel again. Figured I'd take a few minutes and shoot a little video on some of the things that I've fabricated just to save some money on buying equipment. What I've got here, this is our fuel caddy. I was looking for something to put fuel in when we do fuel tanks. Have to pump out the old fuel, somewhere to store it instead of using 5-gallon jugs and everything like that. What it is, it's a 30-gallon drum. It was a clean solvent drum to begin with. Made a wheel trolley for the bottom of it, put some wheels on here. Got a little lock strap welded on. And what I did was drilled a couple holes in the bung, ran electric wire down one side and a metal fuel line down the other. And on the end of that is just an old fuel pump. Now, we get them takeouts all the time, bad fuel pump. Most of the time it's the electric motor gone out of it, sometimes the pump. But every once in a while you get one that it has a good motor, it runs okay. It has a good flow, but you can almost put your hand over the end of it. It has no pressure. And the reason for that is it has a bad pressure relief valve inside the pump. Now, whenever we come up with with a pump like that, we'll save it back, throw it in a metal can somewhere, because it pumps just fine. It just it'll do nothing but idle on the engine. You try to go with it, and it doesn't have any pressure, no fuel pressure to supply the engine, but it pumps volume just fine. So that's what we use in something like this. Just as long as it doesn't have any restriction, it'll pump fuel just fine. Something like that in a catalog is $500-600. That's, it'll have a poly tank that's going to be rated for different types of fuel, combustibles. It'll have a pump for that's got non-combustible materials so that it won't spark or anything like that. But that's why I made sure to get a steel drum. It's rated for solvent, which is a combustible, and just a fuel pump. It's for gas. You can put diesel in it too. What we usually do for diesel, we've had to pull off saddle tanks on a 2-ton and up road tractor a couple times. I got another pump that had a bad regulator inside of it, and I just kind of wired it up with a long hose, and when we needed to remove that, we rolled that tank out there, and I just dropped that little fuel pump down into the tank through the fill hole, because them road tractors got a great big old 4 or 5 inch hole. You stuff that down in there and pump the fuel out. That's a 30-gallon tank. It'll take most all automotive and light truck applications, even if the tank's full. I think about the biggest tank out there for automotive and light truck is 35 gallons, somewhere around there. So it usually gets us pretty close. But that's one thing that I've made over the years to make the job a little easier without having to spend any money. Here's something else. Now, we've saved quite a bit of money by doing something like this, by keeping our estimate down. One of the things that is always a problem when you estimate a job is, how much antifreeze you're going to use. Well, you don't know that until you're done. So usually what we do is we'll price in a gallon of antifreeze or so. Everything's that extended long life stuff. It's supposed to last 100,000, 150,000 miles. It's expensive. Antifreeze has gotten to be almost $20 a gallon now. So I took some pieces and I made a little strainer. What I use is just a kitchen colander, and I'll strain it through a shop rag or paper towels, and I have it mounted on this frame right here. This used to be our stand for brake clean. We used to get our brake clean in 15-gallon poly tanks, and I built this stand for that so that we could, fill up our brake clean container right here. And I mounted this on the edge of it, and underneath this metal can fit perfectly around this. So I just put some sealant on there and drove it on. And then I have just a quarter turn valve right here. I set it up so it's the perfect height to get a gallon jug under it for antifreeze. And you just pour it into the top as much as it'll take, and it'll strain as it goes through. I want to do a little bit of refinement since we don't get our brake clean in those plastic jugs anymore. The salesman that came by here retired and no one has picked us up, and we're on the end of a route, so they haven't really reached out to try to sell us anything else. We're not going to buy enough to make it worth their money, I guess. So I'll just do something with this stand. Maybe get some steel 5-gallon buckets, put one on each side maybe, and separate out the brands of antifreeze, because they have Dexcool, that's the orange stuff, and they also have GL5 or GO5, that's the yellow stuff, I think, and then you have conventional green. Right now there's nothing held in there, so I just strain everything through the same thing and rinse it out every time. But that saves, it might save $30 on a job, but that makes you $30 less than the other guy. Usually what the other guy doesn't do is just not price it into the job, and then you get hit with that when you pay the bill. We try to be our estimate is pretty darn close to the actual price, whereas their quote usually ends up being higher when you go to get it. So, but anyway, figured I'd pop on here, and I had a few minutes before I really got into work, and my arm's just not working like it should. I guess that's my punishment. I did played a part in an Easter play here on Sunday, and played a Roman soldier in the play, and my job was to whip Jesus with a riding crop. So I whipped Jesus for an hour and a half, and now my arm hurts. So I'm getting a little punishment now. But like, comment, subscribe, and hit a little bell deal down there somewhere. If you enjoy it, if you don't, my channel, not yours. All right, talk to you later.